Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, says that one of the targets of the Green Chamber is the prioritization of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Kalu, who presided over the plenary on Tuesday, added that the House would also focus on specific provisions of the Constitution that have undergone amendment processes. In his words, and I quote, "The budget is currently before us, and I am sure that with your support from various committees of the House, we will do due diligence in making sure that the budget becomes a working instrument for the MDAs and for the nation at large," end quote. Member of the House of Representatives from Benue State, Terseer Ugbor, joins us now to have a discussion on this. It's great to have you join us this afternoon. Thanks for coming to Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
What is the realistic timeline for the House to conclude the deliberations and defense sessions and pass the appropriations bill?
Well, I think we're hoping that in the next week or two we should pass the appropriations bill into law. According to the timelines that the President has set for the budget, he wants to conclude implementing the 2024-2025 budget by the end of March, and so we expect that the 2026 budget will kick off by April. So that means we will need to complete the work on the budget by the end of March and get ready for implementation by April.
Now, the Deputy House Speaker also talked about the electoral bill, the constitutional amendment, and of course the 2026 budget. So which of the three would you say is the most time sensitive and why?
I think they're all very time sensitive. I wouldn't say any is more important than the other. You know, the appropriations bill is very important. Like I said, the 2024-2025 consolidated appropriations bill will be expiring by the end of March, according to the target set by the President himself. And so it is expected that the 2026 Appropriations Act will start implementation by April at the most. So it is important that we get this bill passed as soon as possible. It was read on the floor of the House today, and tomorrow we'll have debates and committees will do their job, and hopefully in a few days, a few weeks, we'll get the appropriations bill passed. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill is also very time sensitive. Of course, you know the sentiments of the public, especially the civil society, regarding electoral reforms in Nigeria. So it's important that we get this bill across the line as soon as possible too, so it can leave the National Assembly and go to the presidency for signage. For the electoral reforms, we've gone through all the processes. We've gone through the debates on the bill. We've made amendments. We've made corrections. All the arguments have been put in place and captured in the amendments of that bill. And so the work has been done. I think it's just the final processes, activities that will be done on the parliamentary side before it is sent to the presidency for signage, so that INEC can be sure and the general public can be sure of which of the bills, the electoral bills, will be used for the 2027 election. So the quicker we pass the Electoral Act, the faster it is for everybody to prepare for 2027.
Well, now, given the procedural stages, required from first reading to committee work and public hearings, how realistic really is speedy passage without cutting corners in all of these bills?
No, the bills will be passed expeditiously. The National Assembly leadership is in tune with the presidency. These issues have been looked at even before we went on holidays for the Christmas. Now we're back, and these are the priorities that we've set for ourselves over the next few legislative days. And of course, today we've started looking at the appropriations bill. The electoral bill will also be looked at and passed by the House and the Senate, I'm sure, in a few legislative days, and then of course sent to the presidency. These are urgent matters that need to be handled expeditiously, and I think the leadership and we, the members of the House, realize the importance of these bills. The appropriations bill especially needs to be passed because there are a lot of backlog of contractors and payment for projects that are lacking, that have not been paid, and this is causing a lot of hardship for investors and contractors in the country. And this also has a potential to make business people and contractors to to lose confidence in the system and begin to withhold their investments in supporting the federal government in implementing contracts in this country. And this will also lead to a lot of abandoned projects as we've had in the past. So it is important that this appropriations bill is passed. It is important that the revenue to support this bill is quickly assessed, and these contractors paid and projects paid and executed as soon as possible. As you know, this is an election year, so to say. Primaries will be held this year. Campaigns we start very soon, and the earlier we round up these activities before members proceed back to their constituencies to begin to campaign and lobby for their re-elections, the better for everybody and the better for the country. So I'm sure members of the House are aware of this, the leadership is aware of this, and everybody is on deck to ensure that these bills are accelerated and passed. The clerk and the management of the House are also on standby. Everybody has resumed from the holidays, and we're ready to go.
And can we expect the president's assent before the second half of 2026?
Oh, yes, I think so. Second half of 2026, that's sometime between May and June. I think by then we'll be deep in campaigns. Primary elections will be taking place at about that time. So it's important that these bills are passed. The president will also be quite busy. And at that time, before that time, we need to be sure on what electoral act we're using to persecute the elections of 2027. I'm sure the presidency is also aware of this. He's part of what we're doing. We're all in the same political party, and we know the importance of these reforms to our electoral system in the country. And so we've made a lot of changes to the Electoral Act that helps improve the efficiency of INEC to execute the elections in a free and fair way. The electronic transmission of results made compulsory through the BVAS and other electronic methods have also been captured properly in the bill. The cost of elections on how much each candidate is allowed to spend by law has also been taken up a little bit because of the economic situation of the country, giving political parties and candidates more room to spend campaigning and lobbying, traveling around the country. So there's been quite some significant changes that have been introduced to the new electoral reforms, and the earlier we get this over the line, the better. I'm sure before the middle of the year, all these bills will be passed already.
Well, I'd like us to focus a bit on constitutional amendment. I know it requires approval by state assemblies. How does that reality affect the timeline that has been promised?
Yeah, like you said, constitutional amendment bills need to go to the states. 24 states have to approve of these amendments in the Constitution before they can be passed by the legislature and then sent to the presidency for assent. A few of the bills are a little bit controversial, or I'll say contentious, but a few of them are quite straightforward. There are bills on state creation and local government creation. Those ones are a little bit contentious, but we're hoping that with proper consultations, those bills will get passed over the line. Then there's the bill on the special seats for women, which is also, I'll say, a little bit contentious. As a parliament, we're pushing and trying to ensure that a majority of us sign yes for the special seats bill for women and, of course, people living with disabilities, so we can have proper representation in the National Assembly and parliaments across Nigeria. But, not everybody agrees that this is a necessity. But we're hoping that once we're able to pass it through in the National Assembly, then we'll send it to the states, and hopefully the advocacy would have been done so that the states will pass these bills without wasting time and without rejection, so that we can pass it and send to the presidency for signage. Constitutional amendments usually is more rigorous. It takes more time, more consultations, more advocacy across the entire country. There must be consensus before these bills can be passed. So there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done. But I believe that this 10th Assembly is determined to pass some of these bills and the constitutional amendments before the end of our tenure. We still have quite a bit of time to go, even during the elections and after the May elections, we'll still have some time to ensure that we make changes to the Constitution before the end of the 10th Assembly. The 10th Assembly has proposed the most wide-ranging amendments to the Constitution in the history of the Fourth Republic because of the challenges that we see and the importance that these changes, the impact of these changes on our country. And so we're doing everything possible that as much as possible we make as much corrections or improvements on our Constitution as much as possible, so we'll leave a good legacy for generations to come, and of course for the next assembly that will be coming to also pick up from where we've stopped and continue the work of continue to make a more perfect union, a more perfect Constitution that guides the way we run our affairs and of course pushes Nigeria through a more developed and economically sustainable society.
Honorable Terseer Ugbor, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday and for this conversation.